Hi, everyone. I'm Carrie Cassidy from Project Camelot, and I'm very happy to be here today. I have a fabulous guest, Eddie. I'm sorry. It's just been a long day. Eddie Page, and we've had a lot of construction going on here, and also my website's been down for 3 days. Been looking for my webmaster. My ex-webmaster, Tommy, has stepped up and he is working on the problem as I speak. So we're hopefully going to get back online one of these hours, hopefully sometime today. So Eddie Page is a Pleiadian whistleblower, and this should be around my 4th or 5th interview with him. And if you go to Project Camelot's YouTube channel, you can just do a search under the name Eddie, first name Eddie, E-D-D-I-E, and you should find all the interviews. So after you watch this, I would highly recommend that you go and find the other interviews, because we covered quite a lot of ground in those other interviews. So I'm going to bring Eddie on the screen here. And Eddie, it's great to see you, and haven't talked in a little while. So hope you're doing well.
I'm doing well. Yes, I am.
Okay. Now we're getting some interference here with the video for some reason. I've been having a lot of strange, anomalous technical things besides the fact that my webmaster has disappeared and my website has gone down. So now, actually don't know why this is going on here, but you know, you would think that we would have the bandwidth to get you going. Hold on one second. I'm just going to adjust one thing, but they can hear you. It's just an issue where what's happened is your visual has frozen. So they can see a picture of you, but at the moment it's not moving, which is very odd. So go right ahead, and hopefully this will, you know, fix itself.
All right.
Now what we want to do is introduce you for those who haven't seen my other interviews with you. And of course, the title of this will have captured the imagination and interest of many viewers out there, because we're going to be talking about NIBIRU, a planetoid and or planetary system. There's differing points of view on that. And also your statements, kind of prophecies, if you want to call them that there is going to be a return of the DRACO, and that possibly they are hidden inside the planetoid known as NIBIRU, or Planet X by some. So do you want to just give yourself an introduction based on what I just said, and also any other background that you think people should know?
Yeah, I think you've covered a lot of bases with me over these last several nice chats we've had. NIBIRU, or Planet X, Planet 9, as NASA now has admitted they know of, has existed for a long time. Its elliptical course, or transverse through our galaxy, has been noted by ancient cultures. And when I like to say NIBIRU, but when NIBIRU comes through, bad things happen. It's been documented over the course of history. The ancients called it the flying dragon, the dark dragon, the red dragon, the dark star, the Death Star. The biblical teachings call it wormwood. When this planetoid system does come through, it not only creates a pressure on this galaxy, not just with Earth, but all planetary systems in this galaxy, it creates havoc. We're seeing the havoc now. Yeah, you can call them prophecies. They're actually warnings. Prepare. One of the things that one of my late great friends taught me, Zachariah Sitchin, and I was on 2 of his Earth Chronicle expeditions. When we studied the ancient Sumerian cuneiforms, they talked about, and they called it the dark star. And when the dark star appeared, cataclysmic events would soon follow. And this is what we're seeing now. When they mention these events, they also mention the ancient teachings of the Raphia, or as the Indians called them, and I'm talking about the people from India, they called them the Nagas. These were the serpent men, the dragon men, dragons that walked upright. We ain't talking about small dragons. We're talking quite large, cannibalistic, and they've been around for a long time. And I promise you, Carrie, I'd keep a lot of the biblical teachings to the side and stick to the data, but the ancient teachings are mentioned in the biblical references, and people, your viewers, can go to the various teachings of here because they're online and see these ancient prophecies, if you want to call them that, but they were actual warnings. These beings came, and many of them are here right now as we speak.
Right, and I would definitely agree with that. So what you have said is that there is going to be a return, and from what we've heard now, there are differing points of view, and I get different whistleblowers coming to me with different stories, and certainly what we call Planet X, NIBIRU, it's got many names, Wormwood, etc., has also been, some people did say it could be the Planet 9 they identified, others maybe disagree. I've also been told that it is directing itself, or it's been driven, so to speak. In other words, it's under intelligent control as opposed to acting like a natural sort of rotating planet.
Absolutely.
All right. And that is the idea here, that this is a return of the DRACO, but the DRACO being a different race of beings, in my understanding, than the Anunnaki. And so NIBIRU, I thought, was associated with the Anunnaki rather than the DRACO. Can you clarify how you see that?
Yeah, well, I don't see it. It's the when I mentioned about the warnings, as some people call them prophecies, I call them warnings because that's what Zechariah called them. They were ancient warnings. Excuse me. When we understand who the fallen ones, the watcher angels that's mentioned in the book of Enoch, they were tall, they were warriors, and they were giants. So now, with that said, we go back to the biblical references of the Nephilim, who were mentioned openly as giants. In the ancient teachings, the Anunnaki, being the warriors they were here to protect and guard over the first creation, the Adam, man. Now, with that said, the Anunnaki is mentioned in the book of Enoch as the watchers. You know, again, people have to do their own research. I know there's a lot of stuff out there on the internet, and you know, again, you have a garden here. Separate the flowers from the weeds. I know what I've seen. I know what I've read. I know what I've been taught. When we see the Anunnaki mentioned, the Anunnaki were our protectors. They were sent here by the creators. Notice I said creators, not God. God again, and I don't want to upset the apple cart with the religious people, but God is actually a concept that was created by man. But if we understand who these creators were and who they came down here with for the creation of the human species, we also see that many other species were involved with this genetic seeding. Now, with that said, the Anunnaki, who were protected and given charge to protect the early settlements of the creation story itself, fought a very bitter battle with these Dracos. Now, there is a good understanding here, and I know, again, we have a lot of stuff out there on the internet. I'm only trying to clarify it, and when I clarify it, I don't ask people to take my word for everything it's worth. Do your research and see that what I'm saying is a fact. I know they say the Draconians one species, the Dracos is another species, the Reptilians is another species. Let's just be real. The ancient word of the Sumerians was known as the Rapha, or the Raphidians. If you look at the Hebrew and Aramaic word of Raphidim, it means dragon man, or land dragon, or a dragon beast. Okay, here is your mythical serpent in the great garden of Pakshur, or Mesopotamia, the Garden of Eden. These beings, uh, these beings are not nice. They intended to destroy the creation because one thing, greed and lust. If we see where they tempted the so-called Eve, she ate the forbidden fruit. You know, religion has painted a very dire and unbiblical or untruthful picture to control the masses. I say that very openly. These draconians looked at the human species as part of the menu. Now, I'm not going to use my Bible today. People, use your own research again. But within the many biblical records, and I can go back to also the ancient teachings of the Hindus and the Buddhists, the people of the ancient lands, they knew that these people sacrificed their children to these beings, these draconians, the Rapha. And I'm just going to call them the Rapha because that's what the Sumerians called them. Now, the Rapha are part of a collective that waged war against the creators of man. They are here today. They have been here for a while. There is a great war that took place in the heavens. It was fought to a standstill. We see evidence of that today. Sodom, Gomorrah. How about the great people that lived in Rajasthan, India? I probably just murdered that word, Carrie. I'm sorry, but I don't speak Indian too well. But to make the long story short, this war was nuclear in nature. I've done 2 trips to the Middle East on the Dead Sea. My first one, I was blown away to find that the scientist was showing me spent uranium-235 scattered for something like 20 to 25 miles east of the Dead Sea. People don't realize that the Dead Sea is not an actual lake, but it's an actual depression from two large nuclear blasts. Human species never had uranium-235 until the late 50s when the United States was discovering it with the help of the former Third Reich scientists. Now, with that said, how did man have this? How did man acquire uranium-235, which is a key element of detonation of a nuclear weapon? These weapons and this material was found in multiple places globally. They have even been found up in the Chaco Valley of Arizona, where the Zuni and the Hopi tribes once lived. There is remnants of these peoples today. We have found the same evidence down in South America. It's all over the world, Carrie. These Dracos came to destroy the first creation. They are here and they're coming back en masse. This planet, this planetary system, NIBIRU, is the Death Star. It is the red dragon that the Sumerians warned humanity about.
Okay.
Many races that are coming here right now to assist man. And this is not Star Trek or Stargate SG-1 or whatever. People, this is the real McCoy. These things have been foretold before they ever happened. I mean, I've had data. NASA came out January this year announcing they have discovered a 9th planet in our solar system, a rogue planet. Now, if anybody's watched any of my videos on YouTube, I showed some of the data, but you got to ask yourself, really? They just now discovered it? Said, I've got documentation over here that is almost 10, 12 years old, somewhere in there, where they were watching this system as it entered this galaxy a few years ago. And one of the documents, they call it, is this wormwood?
Right.
I have to laugh about this. These are PhDs. These are scientists, trained observers, and yet they knew then, they know now. You won't find nothing of current data on this planetary system. I tried to look for some. You won't find it because it's something that is well hidden now, because they do not want people like your viewers and people around the world to know exactly what is headed this way. Unfortunately for them, I have some current data.
All right. Well, if you have current data, we'd love to hear it. Now, the one thing I'm wondering, you worked for the CIA for 10 years. During that time, did you come across information about this planetoid or this planetoid system? Some people, there's a researcher called Andy Lloyd. He wrote a book after 10 years of research called Dark Star, and he contends that it was surrounding a red or a brown dwarf type sun, and that it was moving. There was not just one planet, that NIBIRU was one of the planets circulating that sun, and that it was a whole sort of mini solar system that would periodically come through our kind of, I think it's slightly perpendicular to our Milky Way galaxy, or whatever you call it, or our solar system. But at any rate, did you get information back in those days at the CIA, or does your information come from either before that or after that?
Well, let's put it this way. I have a master's degree in archaeology. I also have a master's degree in geophysics. I'm very proud of my education. I was given probably the best education, along with my brothers and sisters, that money could buy. And thankfully, the government paid for that education. I don't claim to be an expert in any one field, but I do know what to look for and what's going on. I saw the first testament of wormwood when I went to the Middle East through the cuneiforms and the teachings that Zachariah Sitchin and several other archaeologists shared with me. Then I started seeing classified stuff through the agency, Project Aquarius, of talking about this Death Star. What do they mean by Death Star? So you never get to a straight answer unless you ask for it. And then you're still not guaranteed you're going to get a straight answer. I like to tell people that NASA stands for never a straight answer, or not a space agency. But this stuff was coming directly from PhDs who were employed by JPL, Martin Marietta, and NASA. So when I asked them, what is this wormwood? Oh, that's biblical stuff. Don't worry about it. It doesn't pertain to science. Well, wait a minute. I just saw something 5 years ago in the Middle East that says wormwood, so it doesn't pertain to anything space. Yet, I want to show you something, Carrie. I have a lot of data right here. This comes from 2008. This is an observatory of this mysterious Planet 9. And if you'll look right down here, this is from the Catalina Skywatch, where they were watching the 12D Pons Brook comet. And this was what was given to me. If you can read right down there, can you see that, Carrie?
Yeah, it's off the screen slightly. I think you have to raise it up a bit so people can see that. All right. Yep. Wormwood called this in 2008. And then it says Dr. C. somebody.
Yeah, that's by Dr. Chris Magray. He was a British astronomer that was watching it. He was in Hawaii at the time, over there by the Catalina Skywatch and NASA. But what makes it so unique is they had not labeled it as NIBIRU, but they're calling it wormwood. But they had labeled it as XF, X-ray Frank number 11. And here was the current data to it. The same year, as you can see. So with that said, they're coming out and saying this planetoid system is showing unusual characteristics for a comet or a large asteroid. It's almost like this thing is under control. Well, that says a lot. How do you know it's under control? Well, it doesn't follow all the parameters of a normal asteroid or comet. Well, define normal. This thing at one point was going one direction, and then suddenly it takes a left-hand turn just past Pluto, and it's headed this way. And it hasn't deviated in the last, well, 8 years. It's not moving fast, but it's moving, and it's coming this way. The last I heard, which was a year and a half ago, from reliable sources within NASA, that it is coming under the sun, and it's making an arc under the sun toward Earth. Now, I told you I had some current data, Carrie. This is going on as we speak right now. It's been going on for the last 6 months. NASA and FEMA has been having exercises preparing for a cataclysmic event. Okay, we've talked a lot about Yellowstone. There is my bread and butter right now. I'm watching these earthquakes and these volcanoes. But why is NASA involved in it? NASA's got some really, like I said, it's not a space agency, but they are prepping for, as they call it, dark sky rising, dark star rising. These are two exercises that are labeled. So let's go to dark sky.
Very good. Okay, now we're just out of curiosity. You said they're doing this now. Is this freely available on the internet, or do you have special sources for this?
Well, I will say this. I do have some special sources. I have a very awesome team that I haven't put together. They came to me, and I didn't select because somebody's interested. These people are very, very concerned about what's taking place. And this team is probably watching your show right now. And my hat's off to them. I am not taking my hat off. But these guys are really awesome people. But going to the internet, again, I mentioned that garden, separate the weeds from the flowers. There's a lot of bull crap out there, and I'll say that openly. There is a lot of bull crap out there, but there is some really hardcore evidence. If you really want to see what NIBIRU looks like, this was taken in January 14th, 2014, right out in your neck of the woods, Terry, by KCRA, Channel 3 News, Sacramento. Their morning news, their chopper was out to monitor traffic and was watching a planet that was being eclipsed by another planet. They couldn't explain it, but it's on YouTube. And I tell people, go to YouTube and type in KCRA Channel 3 Mysterious Planet Film. These news reporters kind of laughed about it. Well, just a big rock. What is that? You know, the news media laughing now, but I will say this. I have a strange date that was given to me about 6 months ago, and it does fit with, well, let's say, prophecy. And if this prophecy is true, we have probably just a tab over 2.5 years before this thing is going to be physically visible by everyone. And when I say everyone, this planet is bringing probably man's worst nightmare with it.
Okay, so you're saying in the next 2 or 3 years?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
FEMA is discussing this among themselves.
All right. And when you say it's going to be here, how close do you think it's coming to Earth?
Well, my understanding, it will not hit Earth. There is where the rubber meets the road. I know that there's some YouTubers out there, and your conspiracy theorists is going to say it's going to crash into Earth. It doesn't work that way. Earth has a magnetic shield around it. That shield is shifting. We're calling it a pole shift. We know this is taking place right now, but it will pass within 2 to 5 million miles from this planet. And as it gets closer, it's going to be pushing trash. When I say trash, like asteroids and stuff. And when it passes, it'll be dragging trash, asteroids. We're in for some really dark days. Now, with that said, I told you FEMA's discussing this right now. They say that it will be physically seen in 2021.
All right.
Well,
now, this is a lot later than, you know, I don't know if you know my witness, Bob Dean, but he basically said it was supposed to be seen in 2017. In a sense, you could say there have been some sightings of it. And I'm also wondering if it has the ability to go what I call interdimensional, like any craft that probably moves at quite a rapid speed, because I believe it can appear and reappear depending on where it is. So I'm wondering about that. What do you think?
Well, God bless Bob Dean. I've sat and talked with Bob Dean a couple times. Awesome man, very credible. And Bob, if you're watching this, my hat's off to you, brother. I'm praying for you. Bob has known me for a long time. I just wish I could talk with him more. I miss my old friend Wendell Stevens. It being a hyperdimensional type craft, it is also a Death Star. It is under intelligent control. The rotational value of it, I don't have the data on it. It is hidden. It's astronomical units from Earth right now. I don't have that now. I don't have access to it because the fine people at NASA, when I started talking openly about a year and a half ago, they canceled my access to the Hubble. I do have some pictures of it, but I've been forewarned that this is property of NASA. And if I post any of these pictures publicly, like let's say on your show, I will be held accountable according to federal law. So to keep the dust down in the desert, I can't show no pictures, but I will tell you this. I had a lovely lady 3 days ago. Her name is Mamie McClure. Mamie sent me some pictures that she took of it. I'm not sure, I can't remember where Mamie lives, but it is on my home page on Facebook. And you can go directly there and see these pictures. I have some personal pictures myself, but somebody forgot to mail my printer ink directly to me. So my printer ink is 52 miles away from me. But with that said, there is a lot of data out there on YouTube and the various access news agencies. But again, you know, you've got to see what and who is saying and talking about this. Again, I'm not going to discredit anybody. That's not my purpose here. But people, do your own research. Know which flower is blooming and know which is weeds. There's a lot of disinformation placed out there purposely by many agencies just to throw the people off. It's just like Carrie's having problems with her webmaster. I don't believe in coincidence. I told Carrie earlier that this is probably a shot across the bow because, well, Carrie Cassidy has got a nasty habit of, well, exposing the truth. And correct me if I'm wrong on that, Carrie.
Oh, well, thank you. No, I understand that. I've been told, you know, if you're not getting flack, you're not over the target. So I appreciate that. Now, you wouldn't believe how many Eddie pages there are on Facebook. So people are having trouble. I imagine they have trouble finding your Eddie page. So well, I don't know if there's any key way to separate you from the rest of the crowd here of Eddie pages.
Yep, you can go to Facebook and type in Project Aquarius, and I answer a lot of stuff on there, and I talk to people on there, and I've got a wonderful, beautiful crowd. I mean, these people they're hungry, and I'm trying my damnedest to feed them. But my private Facebook is not under Eddie Page. It goes under my my lineage name, Michael Wolf. And that's where you'll see a picture of a wolf, and then you'll see a picture of a Verona on the Facebook page itself. There, you'll be able to see the pictures that Mamie McClure sent to me. And they are very, very vivid pictures.
Okay, now is this wolf with an E at the end?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay, and you don't happen to know what your main picture looks like on your icon on it either, do you?
Yeah, it's a wolf. It's a white wolf.
A white wolf. Okay, very good. Well, you know what? That looks like my dog a little bit. Quite a bit like my dog. Okay, let's see. So people can find pictures of NIBIRU here on your Facebook, you say, right?
Absolutely.
All right. So I'm looking so that I can show people, but you know, it's not that easy to find. So, okay. Fair enough. I'm sure they're here somewhere. We're going to take a look under photos and see if we see anything there. All right. Now there is a lot of controversy about Planet X, and I think it's, you know, great that you are someone who has been correct in the past. I think that's an important point because you were correct about predicting the Kennedy assassination when you were a kid, and then you also knew about 9/11, and this has all been documented, correct?
That is correct.
And I don't know, I mean, I know you've been tested when you work for the military, et cetera, as a psychic, and I know you were quite accomplished in that area, but is there anything else in the public domain or that you can talk about where you kind of proved that what you said was true and that it came out later? In other words, have you done any other predictions that people might recognize?
Well, I don't have all the documents here in front of me, and
you don't have to. You can just talk about it. You don't. You know, we'll assume that you can send documents to me later, and I can post them if necessary.
You do have many of the documents, and I will talk about it. One of my late great friends was the United States President, Ronald Reagan. I met with the man twice. The second time in 1986 at Camp David. And President Reagan was more concerned about this draconian threat. He'd already tried to mention it to the world and almost lost his life over it. How can we tell the American people, wait a minute, Mr. President, this is not an American event. This is a global world event. The United Nations is probably the best place because you're not going to get no leadway from any of the players involved with this, especially the Vatican, since they are housing many of these beings that we're talking about. So with that said, how and what should we be looking for? Well, my brother Michael explained some of the stuff. My brother Daniel explained some of the stuff. It was funny that I was seated right across from President Reagan, and George Bush stared a hole through me for almost 8 hours. Mr. Bush, I'm going to talk like a canary. This canary is not going to sing. I'm going to talk. So when I carried on my conversation, I looked at George Bush, since he knew this stuff better than anybody, and he's supposed to be an American. Okay, he is American, but why aren't you talking about this with the president? Yet Ronald Reagan would look me square in the eye and he says, what is coming? And this is when I mentioned many of the things that we will see, the telltale signs. We will see the rising temperature. We'll see strange weather patterns. The big dragon, as we call it, Mr. President, is sitting in our living room. It's called Yellowstone. And we will see multiple destructive earthquakes before this planet arrives, because the understanding, as the closer it gets, the Earth's center will heat up. And as it heats up, the Earth will expand. The poles will shift. We're seeing a pole shift right now. I mean, it's been going on for the last 4 to 5 years, maybe a little bit longer. But again, it's not in my avenue to be watching, per se, the pole shifts. I'm watching the dragon, because there is where your, your destruction is going to come.
Okay, now I am on your site. I am looking for the photos. Maybe they were posted a long time ago in the what you call the timeline, but they're not posted in what's called an album. So I don't know, if you're familiar with the different aspects of Facebook, the way it works. At the moment, people will be hard pressed to find those photos that you're describing. At least I've been, as you're talking, scrolling down the timeline here, and I don't see any photos of anything that looks like a planet. So I assume they're here somewhere, but they're very hard to find. So maybe you could move them into what's called either there's a place in photos for you, or a place on your Facebook called albums, and then people could find them a little easier. I don't know if you can do that.
Okay, well, I'm double checking. Are you on my, hold on just a minute. Are you on my homepage on Facebook, Michael Wolf?
Yeah, I'm on Michael Wolf, and it has a picture at the top of this craft that you've got, so that I'm pretty sure it's your right one. And
can you double check on my home Facebook? And
it's got a white wolf, and it's got a triangular sort of what we call a kind of a boomerang. So I think this is the correct one.
That should be it.
Yeah.
It has a nice artist conception of a Varana, actually the craft that flew over Phoenix.
Right. But what I'm saying is that I don't see any, now I don't know if anybody else can find them, but if somebody else wants to look and finds them, if they could let us all know, that would be great. Because, people are always talking about photos that they're very hard to come by. So that would be helpful if you could also go to your own Facebook page and then take the photos and put them into what is either called photos for you or something called album. And the album usually is something that people can then look on. When I go to photos for you, I get very few photos at all, to tell you the truth. There's really nothing here. There's just a few things to do with the Liberty Eagle, something called Do You Ever Jump? I'm not sure what these things are, but they're not related to what we're talking about here. So anyway, that would be helpful. But I do appreciate all of your information. Now, you're talking about how you were dealing with Reagan. So you're saying that you were talking about this back in the days when Reagan was around. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So you were warning them. At this time, just out of curiosity, because Zecharia Sitchin was asked many times, when is NIBIRU coming back? And I think his latest thing that he put out there, which I believe was disinfo, was it wouldn't be back until 2050. Now, he was probably playing a lot of games on different sides. Any reaction to that?
Zecharia Sitchin was a straight shooter. You cannot ask for a more knowledgeable man. You gotta understand, when I first started learning under him, I was still in college, and when I was in the agency in the early days, I was sent to college, and between semesters, I was out in the field learning my trade. Zecharia, fortunate for me, I was the man's second shadow. I asked a lot of questions, and he gave a lot of answers. And as a great teacher he was, when he gave an answer, he was showing me the evidence right there in front of me. So not only as he was telling it to me, I could physically see it. Now, 2050, we discussed about this a few years ago. Do not think 2050 is going to float, because although Zecharia taught me how to read and speak Sumerian, we also studied other prophecies. This was what my job title. I was a theological historical archaeologist, and I wanted to be the best that ever was. Well, I did my job good and thoroughly. But Within them understandings of theology, history, I also got involved with understandings of Michael D. Nostradamus. I know everybody's got to know who he is. I found one of Nostradamus's quatrains quite enlightening. You remember me saying 2021? Now, with that said, he has a quatrain. I would like to read it to you, Carrie. This was a book that was given to me by a very knowledgeable Jewish Hebrew speaking lady. You see that?
Yes.
This was the first book that ever came out. This book was printed in 1951. I had not even been born yet. Imagine that. The Complete Understanding of Michael D. Nostradamus's prophecies. I want to show you, this is in the century number 9, quatrain number 83. Can you see that right there?
Yes.
Can you see that right there also that's in below it?
Okay, yeah, it's a bit hard to read. It's a bit obscured, but yes, it says Revelation 6:12, and then something about 8:13, May 20th, 2021.
Now, let me read you this quatrain. It's in Latin, and then it's been translated into English. Are you buckled in, Carrie?
Yeah, it's very likely I've heard it before, but go right ahead.
It says, the sun being in the 20th of Taurus. Well, 2021 will be the year of Taurus. And all you zodiac and horoscope people, look it up. See if I'm correct. The earth shall quake, and fire shall loom, and smoke shall rise, that it shall fill and ruin the great theater. The air and the heavens of the earth shall be so obscured and troubled that unbelievers shall call upon God and his saints. The commentary down here says the 10th of May is foretold as the exact day of the great cataclysm. And then we can go with Revelation 6:12, Revelations 8 and 8 through 13 as May 20th, 2021. Never mentioned, but what would cause such a great earth cataclysmic event? Unless we've got something coming into this planet. Well, I said I wouldn't use my Bible, and I'm not going to. But those who want to know what wormwood is, I suggest you look in your Bible, Revelations 9, 8 through 13, and verse 11, where it talks about wormwood, about the giant flaming mountain that will crash into the sea. I can't show any evidence on that. I can't prove that that's true, but I tell people, what is your heart telling you? What is your heart telling you? This flaming mountain, if it is real, is not going to be an asteroid. We go back again to the great war that came out of the heavens that was fought to a standstill. The Draconians are not nice people. They said in their cuneiforms, they will return. And, well, I do believe that will be the return. Now, I have something else that I will throw to all the viewers out there, including you, Carrie, because I can't find nothing of credence on this. But something is supposed to happen on September 20th, 2020. What it is, I don't know. I found nothing on it, but this date was given to me by, well, I don't know if I should mention his name. Should I, Carrie?
I'm happy to have you mention his name.
Very good. I will. How about Mr. Brock Long? Mr. Brock Long, the Associate Director of FEMA. Okay, Mr. Brock, if you're watching this or you got some of your flunkies watching, tell us what is going to happen on September 20th, 2020. We're all anticipating your reply. I put him on the spot, Carrie. Let's just see how far he'll come. I wouldn't hold your breath.
Okay, so September 20th, 2020. Is that right?
Exactly.
All right, and then what we've got is May 10th or 20th, if I understand the span of time there, in the year 2021.
Exactly.
Okay, so those are the dates you're giving us, and so people can track this information. It is interesting, you know, because we are aware of lots of preparations, lots of things that are in evidence. And I sent you Deborah Tavares. She's a researcher. She's a very impressive researcher because she really digs deep and reads her documents and all of this sort of thing. For some reason, she loves reading the legalese and, you know, a lot of the documents that a lot of people don't want to read. So she finds out what, you know, people like FEMA and the, you know, what we call Pacific Gas and Electric and these various companies that are run and owned by behind the scenes by Rothschild, what they're doing, what they're not doing, what their plans are, what they're doing in California, especially because she lives in California. And various areas of California, but also across the United States. And this gets worldwide as far as tracking the things they're doing, so that when you have something in theory that's in the offing in the future, I have been told by whistleblowers that there is a sort of shelf life that of things that need repair on the planet, like, you know, railroads and, you know, infrastructure type things, airports, and that there is a great deal of things right now that are in need of repair that they're not bothering to repair. And that they're also trying to move populations, as she says, there's evidence, growing evidence, and I'm aware of this as well, through my own intuition, dreams I've had, and so on, of a movement to get people away from the coasts, and also to get them away from being out in the outlying areas, so they won't have land, they won't be able to have their own well, they won't have their own water, they'll have to all pack into FEMA camps and all of this kind of thing, so that when anything strikes, regardless of what it is, people will be quite vulnerable, and then they can sort of decide your future for you, so to speak. So this is kind of like a very quick overlay of what I've been given, and I sent you some of her links and whatnot. So what do you have to say to all that?
Well, Pat, I admire your work. I've watched the videos that Carrie has shared with me. This is what I know to be true. I will say it again. I've had people look into this. Let's take the chemtrails, for example. Does anybody ever stop and realize how much logistics? And I ain't going to throw no billions of dollar figure out there because it's out of the ballpark. But the logistics, the coordination that would cause that you have to put all these chemtrails. Why are you spraying the people if it's real? Yet there's no evidence. But here is the evidence. We're finding all these dangerous chemicals in the atmosphere. I said, well, some of these chemical elements like iron oxide, carbon dioxide, sulfuric acid, yeah, it's coming from volcanic and seismic events. So with that said, is there enough of that coming from volcanoes and earthquakes cause a global saturation of dangerous chemicals that are lethal? Not really, but NASA has openly admitted, and again, you can go to some of the news agencies and find where NASA is finding these chemical elements that are raining down on the globe, and it's coming from a cosmic nature. That is not my understanding. That is from the scientists that are studying it. Cosmic. So if we've got a Death Star coming this way, and then the Death Star, I'm going back to the Sumerians, this Death Star is pushing dangerous elements into this galaxy. these elements are in natural abundance out in space, but they are not in quantities. But if you've got a electrical deficiency within a planet's rotational value, it is like a magnet. It will draw it in. So if you are losing your magnetic weakness, like the Van Allen belts, the call them the northern lights or whatever, the caps of the pole shift is allowing a lot of these dangerous elements to come into the ionosphere, eventually filter into the stratosphere, and guess what? It finds its way in world, hometown, wherever you live. You are breathing this stuff.
Okay.
Many of the chemical trails that I've seen are actually, well, they're asteroids. I've got some pictures that this was a chemtrail, and then we find out a small meteorite or a small piece of rock from space come hurling through there about the time people are seeing these chemtrails appear. The logistics of that would be outrageous. But Pat Tavares, I guess I just ruined her name. Her evidence is very credible. Again, I'm not going to say that she's 100% right or she's 100% wrong, but I think a lot of the stuff that she's saying is factual. But again, where is your evidence? I need to see more proof than what you're saying.
Okay, well, you're going to have to do your own homework in that regard, Eddie. Now, I put onto the screen the visuals of chemtrails, and there's no way they're coming out of a volcano when they paint the skies with stripes of chemtrails that last and change your weather right in front of your eyes. And this is not a volcanism. Now, I agree, there is volcanism in our air and mixing in with some of the chemtrails, I'm sure, but this is beyond a fact at this point. And yes, there is a concerted effort to alter planes. We've got whistleblowers that talk about it. We've got people whose lives have been threatened, and lots of pilots that are afraid to come forward to talk about it. But they even put this into commercial airlines, and I have seen it myself. So I do appreciate that you maybe haven't used your time to do the kind of work you need. And I did refer you to Clifford Carnicom. He is considered one of the best, has the best scientific team investigating chemtrails. And I'm going to give you a sort of what you call a drop into the Skype here that we can sort of give you so you can look at some of the pictures. But I think that will be a distraction if we start off on that discussion here, because it looks like you're not up to speed on all the evidence. And so that's not going to really help us. Now, what I would like to do, however, is talk about what you think is the motivation for keeping the return of Planet X, NIBIRU, Wormwood, whatever they want to call it, from the people. In other words, are you of the opinion that they are going to basically try to put people in FEMA camps? You've seen maybe the coffins and things they've shown. Is this your understanding?
I will tell you this. I have watched and I've researched the Rex 84 agenda. This has been nothing hidden by any government. But I'll tell you, viewers, call the United Nations who drafted the Rex 84 doctrine and see if you can get a copy of it. Good luck. That's all I'll tell you. I know the FEMA camps exist. I know where they're at. There's 647 of them in this country alone. These camps carry guillotines for organ harvesting. They also have crematories to get rid of the dead bodies. There's multiple places around this country where these alleged coffins, they call them plastic containers. Well, if you see them, these plastic containers can hold up to 5 bodies. They are designed. When this purchase, which was signed by Barack Obama in 2012, a $2 billion contract awarded to Altel or Altec, which is a corporation owned by Rubbermaid. They also gave a contract grant to a company in China. They're supposed to have them in their possession this month. Now, you got to remember, this was signed by an executive order by Obama in 2012. Requirement, according to the NASA or the FEMA budget, that this contract had to be fulfilled by September 2018. Well, here we are at September. Many of these coffins, these plastic containers, are already in locations. You have to ask yourself, people, why are they got so many of these plastic containers? Why are they moving National Guard? Why has FEMA's got these imaginary mobile home parks that don't even exist in certain locations? Like I said, I've got a good team also. They've went to these locations. There is no mobile home park there, but I'll tell you what they have found. Many of these alleged locations and addresses that we found through the documents, through the Freedom of Information Act, and through sources that are close to the ones who are, as you call them, whistleblowers, give us the address and the locations. When you go there, you will find one of three things. One, you'll find a former Walmart supercenter that has been fenced in, and you have armed guards there. Or number two, or you'll go to a field that has trailers parked but nobody around, yet they'll have armed guards there again. And number three, you'll go to places in certain cities like Colorado Springs, outside of Fort Carson, and there's a facility and it's got guards there also. This facility looks like a huge military base. It's got barbed wire, but it's got guards, and there's no American flag flying. There's no flags flying. I know, for being in the Marine Corps, there's a standard order throughout the military that all military posts, no matter what branch it is, will display the American flag in all of its glory. Well, if that's the case, why don't they have one there in Fort Carson? And these other facilities also don't carry them. Rex 84 is a actual thing. They are preparing for a mass casualty event, as I've showed other people. Now, with that said, the federal government, back in 1986, when I was meeting with President Reagan at Camp David, how do we tell the American people? That was his exact words. And he asked us all, but when it came to my turn, I said, Mr. President, the best way is for you and your credibility as the leader of the free world, you need to stand before the world and announce what is coming and who is behind this. After all, President Kennedy tried to do the same thing. He was scheduled to do it in 1964. And well, everybody knows what happened to President Kennedy. This is not a Johnny-come-lately, Carrie. This is something that they've known for a long time. And with that said, now they know why our Father brought us back here. There is ships out there waiting to, well, it's not the rapture. It is an extraction, because the final battle is going to be fought right here on terra firma.
All right. So that's interesting, you know, that you're being so specific about it. And I do appreciate that. So people will certainly know in 2 or 3 years if you're right or wrong.
I'm right. I'm right. There's no wrong in this.
I appreciate it. Okay. So, you know, we've had plenty of reason to think there's something up with this, at least at Camelot, because as I said, since since our inception, we've had a number of whistleblowers, both in front of the camera and, as they say, you know, behind the scenes, communicating with us about a coming event. They've been very circumspect about exactly when, however. And there have been differing, as I said, sort of scenarios. And it's not about something hitting the planet. It's actually something that is creating a lot of changes, not just with planet Earth, apparently, but also the other planets in the solar system. And perhaps you've tracked some of those changes yourself as well. With other planets, have you seen that evidence?
Well, again, my cup of tea right now, my focus is the dragon is sitting up in Yellowstone. That is my 150% focus. I'm watching all this stuff. But since you brought that up, I do know that some of the astronomers that are associated with the European Space Station or Space Agency and Russian astronomers, along with Chinese. Oh, here's the terrible Russians and the terrible Chinese. How come they are talking about it openly in their nations when they're seeing a disturbance of strange orbital patterns that are changing in planets like Jupiter, Saturn? They're seeing strange anomalies with these planets. They're not taking a normal course. Well, what's causing it? Well, we could be looking at X-ray Frank 11 that, well, the fine people at NASA knew about back in the 70s, back in the 60s. Now, with that said, let's go back to 2016. How come the Secretary of the State, John Kerry, was ushered down to Antarctica? How come the Pope of the Greek Orthodox Church was down there in Antarctica? How come the Soviets had a military fleet standing by, along with the U.S. Navy, part of their 5th Fleet down there, British ships? How come all these people were showing up down there in Antarctica? And yet, who was it? Buzz Aldrin that almost had a heart attack and he had to be flown to New Zealand, said, I've witnessed pure evil. I've saw the most dreadful thing. We are in grave danger. Do you think this was the babbling of an astronaut or somebody that was just, well, he just was in lightheaded. He was hallucinating. No, this man was 100% accurate. What did he see down there in Antarctica that nobody is talking about, except, well, maybe the Russians are talking about it, the Chinese are talking about it. And when the Pope of the Greek Orthodox Church left there, he did not go back to Poland. He went directly to Vatican City. So I asked my fine friends in Vatican City, what are you hiding from the world other than your sex abuses with children and stuff? What do you know that's taking place? And yeah, Carrie, I watched your interview with Dr. Ledwith. Why didn't he come clean about the things he knows about the Draconians?
That's a good question. That's a good question.
I'm not going to put you on the hot seat, Carrie, because I don't have to. But you had oh man, lady, you missed a golden opportunity to put that man on the hot.
Well, no, I did try. I tried, but he just didn't want to answer it. He didn't want to answer it.
Is that a surprise to you?
No, it's not. But, it's not up to me. Once I ask a question or two, I'm not going to, insult the man to his face on stage. I mean, he is well-meaning. He has rebelled against the Vatican to a degree. But, yeah, he's keeping secrets. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to tell you something, Carrie Cassidy. I promised to my father years ago that I will keep my temper in check. I will be watchful. I will make mental notes, and I will share and help people as I get older. Well, you know what? I'm 65 years. I think I'm old enough, and I'm still doing the same thing. I have made a promise not only to my father myself, but I'll make a promise to your viewers. And I've made it to the people that, well, I have a lot of loving people that really care about just me, but humanity. I will make this promise right now openly that not only am I going to give the warning, I'm going to show you as much evidence as I can, because things are getting ready to get really messy. Mr. Ledworth knows what's underneath the Vatican City. If you're talking about a layer of draconian influence, ask yourself this: why does the Vatican in St. Peter's Basilica have a throne called the throne of Lucifer. I've got pictures of it. I've been to Vatican City once.
Yep,
A very foul and wicked
I've
place.
We at Camelot have been talking about what's under the Vatican for a long time, and I can tell you that actually Ledwith lied to me. You know, with all due respect to the man. No, I asked him about that. I asked him about what's under the Vatican. In fact, I told him what was under the Vatican, and he denied it. So, or at least denied knowledge of it. So, you know, we have a whistleblower called Leo Zagami. I don't know.
No, I know Leo. Right. I know Leo.
All right. Well, so he was part of the P2 Lodge, and he was mind controlled, and they actually did try to take him over, but he seems to have sort of saved himself at the last minute and whatnot. Anyway, he did a famous interview with us many years ago in which he actually revealed a great deal, to his credit, about what was under the Vatican and the Black Pope and a lot of other things going on there. So sure, you know, what is I appreciate with you, Eddie, is that you are very forthright. You tell it like it is. You don't give me any BS, and you do know quite a bit. There's no doubt about it. Now, in terms of these DRACO and what we call the Anunnaki, because you have already said in my previous interviews that the Anunnaki are basically, in a certain sense, if I understand your understanding of who they are, they're, in a sense, they're you. They're the warrior class of the Pleiadians. And you guys are descended from the same genealogy, whatever you want to call that, bloodline. But at the same time, there was a split. And my understanding from other sources and information is that a section of the Anunnaki were invaded by the DRACO. Yes, they had a war, but they also were basically taken over. And that's where you get these, what are in essence, these human DRACO hybrid. And you're calling them the giants, you're calling them Nephilim. Some people call them that. And so, you know, I agree. That's, you know, very likely what we're talking about here. It is fascinating. Now, I've been told that they do have a base down in Antarctica. And so do you know about that? And in other words, what did Buzz Aldrin see? What do you think he saw?
Well, we have to go back to the understanding. Admiral Byrd, why was he down there in force in 1947, sent there by President Eisenhower, or not President Eisenhower, but Harry S. Truman? Why did they send a naval armada down there that actually they had to flee? There was like 4 or 5 ships sunk. Who sunk them?
Right.
Well, same people that, John Kerry went down there to see. The DRACOs have a base there. They've had a base down there for a long, long time. They've got other bases also. Well, I just talked about one of them there in Vatican City. We can go about the battle that took place in Dulce, New Mexico. You got to understand, the Greys or the Zetas, they're mentioned in the Bible as the Anakims, they are servitude to the Draconians. They are the little troublemakers. I've let people know over years, my people do not abduct. We've never abducted anybody. We come visit. We come visit because you wanted us to visit. We come in love and peace. But tell me, who is doing the abductions? Especially where medical procedures are being done, cloning is being done, and sometimes the people are never returned. Don't believe me? Look at the incidents that are taking place in Brown Mountain, North Carolina. I've been there 3 times. Why is the United States Air Force got 15 plus 100 acres secluded and fenced off right now under armed guard?
Right.
How come people are going into the woods there in the Pitt National Forest in North Carolina, and many times they never return, including law enforcement agency? Who is doing it?
Absolutely.
And why? You have to understand that the Draconians have been here. They are coming back. and they're coming back. They're not coming back to bring you gifts and nice tidings. These people are mentioned in the many ancient teachings that they're coming back to finish the job they started several eons ago. A war that was fought to a standstill. Now, I know you're right, Carrie, in many areas, but many of the Anunnaki, who were beings, warrior class beings that were protecting creation, many of them lost their lives. Many of them fled. Some of them are still here. Where you look at some of these mysterious bones and these skeletons they're finding all over the place. I'll tell you one, Carrie, that you can investigate if you get time, that has never been told. And you told me you went there. I'll probably murder this, so I apologize now, but Tekepi in Turkey.
Oh, Göbekli Tepe, absolutely.
They found 3 skeletons there when it was first started being excavated by the archaeologists. Yep. They found 3 skeletons there that stood over 18 foot tall. Now, you won't hear that on CNN, will you? Did you know about that, Carrie?
Yes, I know quite a bit about Göbekli Tepe. It's one of the things, I don't know specifically 3, but I know that this is a place that was actually used as sacrificing humans, supposedly also genetically engineering humans by various races. So it is a system of portals. And and I'm not surprised that what you're saying, because there are, there's a guy named Hugh Newman, and he worked with another guy. His name is Jim, and I forget his last name. But at any rate, they wrote a book on giants. They've been touring the world, documenting the finds of giant skeletons all over the world, and they found unbelievable numbers all over the world, and specifically in North America have been a tremendous number of giant skeletons, actually. So yes, and in Egypt, there's a museum down there that has a photograph of a giant skeleton that happens to be on the museum wall because they didn't realize that they should take it down. And in fact, the British Museum of it's surgery or something like that, I happened to visit it when I was in Britain, actually has a giant skeleton that's standing right next to a human. And it's a real skeleton. It's not a fake skeleton. And it's not caused by some kind of genetic anomaly.
No, it isn't. These are real live beings, Carrie, just like you, just like me.
Yeah.
Cut our arm, Carrie, and we're both, you and I are going to bleed the same color. Now, I've got a different blood type than you, but that doesn't mean that I'm better than you. We're all in this boat together. This is hardcore evidence. The Smithsonian Institute, just north of Bethesda, Maryland, has a warehouse up there. I think it was 450,000 square foot warehouse where they are housing many of these skeletons that have been found periodically over the last 100 to 150 years around America.
Yes, and they have hidden them. They're hiding them from the people.
So here is the big question that people need to start asking them. This is not anyone's personal property. This is stuff that belongs to your viewers. It belongs to the viewers, whether they're in England, Germany, Russia, China, or United States. This is stuff that people need to know and have credible witnesses and scientists to explain these beings were real. The North American Native Americans talked about them. They walked. They were here protecting the people. There was a war going on. And some of these giant beings, the bones are radioactive. Why are they radioactive? Only one thing can be explained. They were the victims of a nuclear blast, because we find this evidence worldwide. If you don't believe me, go to Chaco Valley, talk to the native Navajo, and let them tell you the story of Raven Valley, the cliff people. Why were they living on the cliffs? It wasn't because of the view. They were up there because they were hiding. Who were they hiding from? The DRACOs. The DRACO, because as the Hopi and the Zuni talked about them, there was a blue Kachina star. Well, that blue Kachina star was worship, but there was a red Kachina star that brought death and destruction. People can go to my YouTube channel, and I show some of the evidence from Raven Rock in Mexico and also from Chaco Valley, where the Anasazi and the Zuni and the Hopi lived. These were peaceful people. They were not the warlord, bloodthirsty Indians that Hollywood is painted. These were peace-loving people until they were invaded. And who invaded them? Well, according to some of the petroglyphs they show, it was people in large saucer silvery craft, and they showed these dragon beasts with pointed ears and wings, and they showed people being slaughtered.
Right. Very good. All right. So I do appreciate the information, because you're validating a lot of the information that we've had over the years. You can't get anyone to talk about this stuff. So you're quite unique in that way. And so that's a very good thing. Now, recently you said, I don't know, you say you're going to take a trip. Are you just going to go on to one of the craft and have a meeting with what you call your father, or when is that supposed to happen?
Well, tonight or the future 1 hour meeting.
All right. And there are other beings out there that are sort of, you know, what you would call Pleiadian, ones that are on the planet now and ones that are off the planet, sort of observing, you're saying, up in a craft, right? And the name of that craft is, tell me again, is it this, it's a black, what do you call it? A black crow?
It's
or
not
raven
Victor
or...
One, if that's what you're going. No, they're Varanas. They're known as Varanas, the sacred black triangle.
All right. But you call it by the name of a bird, if I recall.
Yeah, that is the robotic weapons that are here. There is 7 of them placed strategically in this world right now. They're known as the Zia Blackbird.
Right.
Okay. I showed a picture of it on one of the interviews you and I had.
Right.
These craft, and I hope my second shadow is listening to this, but these crafts are living robotic weapons. They are here for one purpose and one purpose only. We brought them here, we placed them here, and they are here to defend humanity. Fortunately, most of humanity will not be on this planet when it takes place. You will not get to see the cloud that will rise. The ones that are left here, like our fine people in Vatican City, they will feel the fire. They will feel the final solution. Things are getting ready to unravel, Carrie. These Zia Blackbirds are programmed, and when they get the final green light, as I like to say, they will rise out of their nest, and it will be total destruction on all that are left on this planet, including their main mission to search out all draconians. You talk about a complete extermination. You don't have to call Terminex or Orkin on this one. We already have this under control.
Okay, now there is something called that the British have put up there. I think there's 3 of them called Black Knight satellites. Are you familiar with those?
I've heard about the Black Knight satellite. The Black Knight satellite is actually a satellite that has been watched for the last 50-something years that they can't identify. Nobody has stated claim, yeah, it's Russian or it's Chinese or it's American. No. And I'll tell you this, it's not a space blanket that came out of one of the shuttles. It's been up there for a long time. Now, Who does it belong to? I don't know. That's not my cup of tea. I wish I could give you a legit answer, Carrie, but I don't.
All right. Well, my information is that again, there are 3 of them, and that they were put up there by the British, that they are what you call low tech, so that they will not be stopped by the artificial intelligence of the various alien races that might try to take it down. So
I'm sorry, Carrie. That's good comedy.
All right.
Have you realized in the last 4 days that a lot of satellites around the globe went down?
You know, I have been hearing that periodically. So what do you want to say about that?
Well, Mr. Page, if this is real, prove it. Do something dramatic. Let's see something beyond understanding. Okay, you want to see something dramatic? Close communications right now for your alphabet agencies, and we'll just not take it in America. Let's take it global. Well, we didn't shut them all down, and we don't play nice when we're challenged. I'll be the first to admit that. But we shut down several military high-tech communication satellites. The Chinese are scratching their head. What just happened? Vladimir Putin saying, "Told you so." And Americans, agencies like the NSA and some of Facebook, they've went down. Will they come back up? They might. It depends on how we feel. We could be in a bad mood and take them all out. And then if we take them all out, guess what? People, your iPhone won't work. Carrie, you and I won't have this conversation in the future. TV won't work. No. So I ask your politicians, how much more credits would you like to see? The ball is in your court. And I'm sure they're watching this, Carrie, because you're watched quite closely, just like I am.
Well, that's a
so
good
make sure you've got your hair done when you do this.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Now, look, we've been talking for a while here. What I want to do is open it up for questions to the public, and they're having an ongoing chat while we chat. They chat as well, and they're talking to each other. But what I need is, if anyone wants to ask Eddie some questions here, we've got a few minutes, and we'll give the stage to you guys to put your questions in the chat in all caps. Makes it easier for me to find them between the chat. And okay, let's see. So Eddie, you claim Daniel is with you. Daniel is one of the fallen angels. Can you explain why you are connected with this Satan, they're calling him?
Daniel is known as Joshua Dayal Uriel. That is his name. You know, we are not the fallen angels. Far from it. Do your homework. See who the fallen angels were. If you really want to see a fallen angel, read the book of Enoch. Now, Daniel is my brother. He's been here multiple times like myself. And you know what? The documents that I've shared with you, the many things that the agency heard from not just me, but all of us. We told them things that happened thousands of years ago. Oh, I've never heard of that. But when they go investigate it, how did they know this? Well, we were there. We lived. People don't realize that life is a continuation. Now, he is not the devil. He is not Satan. I'm not the devil. I'm not Satan. My name may be reflected upon that, but that's what my father named me. We are seraphims. We are from the Imaduraki Meteldazek order. One of my sisters happens to be here now, and she is a high priestess. She has brought a message here from the council, not just for me, but, well, for human. I hope I answered that.
All right. Let's see. I'm seeing if there's any other questions here that make sense. Someone says that there are only 2 ships from the Pleiadians or have more arrived. Didn't you say there were 7?
There's going to be a total of 33 arrived. The last I heard, there were 2 out there. They have been filmed. They've been watched by the ISS and various world governments around the world. My sister, the priestess, has said that her people's ships are coming. I don't know how many of hers are there. I will say this. I will find out this weekend. I am going to be disappearing this weekend, so my phone shut off, my computer shut off. I can give you a current update next week here. How many ships are out there?
All right, very good. Now, someone is asking you if you know anything about QAnon.
Yeah. Pay close attention to them. I cannot guarantee how long they'll be on the air because, like Carrie, she's experiencing trouble. There's a lot of nasty stuff going on. And when you start getting close to the heartbeat of the truth, well, nasty stuff gets real nasty. And, well, your webmaster that goes down, doesn't it, Carrie?
That's true. But we have weathered the storm in the past, so we intend to do it for as long as possible.
Exactly.
So let me see. Is QAnon part of the Earth Alliance, and is Q helping the Pleiadians?
Well, you know, I want to clarify something. The Pleiadians, who I am with, we are known as a galactic federation. We are not just the Pleiadians. There is many species out there that is coming here because many of these species were in the process and were in the beginning of the development as the human species was being created. I mean, we go with the Arcturians, the Taurians, the Taurus, the Sidayas. I know some of these names people haven't heard, but I will tell you who was not in the creation story in a positive manner. Well, they stand 8 to 10 foot tall. They eat you.
Okay, well, what about the mantid beings?
The mantis beings, well, you just can't make this stuff up.
No, you can't. Look, there are statues of praying mantis beings from Göbekli Tepe that we came across. So they've been around a long, long time. They supposedly are trying to cross over to the light side to align themselves with humans. That's the latest information we have. Simon Parks is a whistleblower who talks about that quite a bit, although I'm not sure that all the mantid beings are on the same page.
Well, that's why I say manta beings. I've heard the terminology. I've seen some of the hieroglyphs talking about them. They're even in the Egyptian hieroglyphs. We know them as by the Native American people, especially the Anasazi. They called them the ant people. Now, these ant people did not harm humanity. In fact, they were helping humanity. So are they here? I can't say. I can't say. If they are, I would probably say we have to look back the ancient teachings that they were helping humanity.
Okay. Well, there seem to be, there is a lot of those kinds of beings that there's a lot of mix up as to which is which, I think. So I think we'd have to be more specific. Let me see. I'm looking down these questions. Now, someone wants to know if you're familiar with this idea that Earth is going to split from 3D into 4D, 5D. And someone thinks there's going to be 2 Earths at that point. So Dolores Cannon used to get people regressed, and they used to talk about this. There's been a lot of talk about things like, a split in Earth. Do you want to have anything to say about that?
Yeah. I don't get too involved with the 3D dimensions and all this other stuff because I'll say this for Dolores or whoever sent the message. There is a lot of disinformation out there. Again, do your research. But I will say this, the new world will be exactly what I say, a new world. Earth being split into two places. Well, how many people know that Mars at one time was inhabited? How many people know that Earth thousands of years ago had a sister planet that set just off course between the moon and Earth? It was known as Tiamat. And guess what? Now you know where the asteroid belt came, because when this war evolved into what it was on this planet, Tiamat was inhabited by beings that looked just like you. They were human, an extension of the cultures and the civilizations that came here as an extension of life. And it was destroyed, completely destroyed by a weapon of unbelievable destruction. Yeah. That weapon still exists today.
Yes. Okay. Well, we're aware of Tiamat. Yes, or at least I am. All right. So that's your answer there. Let's see. Someone who's an amateur astronomer wants to know, can you tell them the location of NIBIRU so they can look in that area of the sky?
Yes, I can. I cannot give you the resonance location. I cannot give you the astronomical markers because I don't have the privy of seeing this data anymore, thanks to the fine people at NASA. But I will tell you this, it is seen more. In fact, that's where mainly most of the pictures come from, in the southern hemisphere. You have to look at the southern hemisphere around the 43-degree angle. Now, with that said, I have people in Perth, Australia that have seen it. Some people in New Zealand, right, Javi? Yeah, you're right, Javi. Javi has seen it. Mr. Skeptical himself. People in the southern part of Chile and Argentina, they're watching it. And our fine people from Vatican City and Arizona with their Lucifer telescope.
Yep, absolutely.
They are watching it.
Right.
Again, you will not hear about this on CNN, will you, Carrie?
That's exactly right. So very good. Now, someone wants to know, I think they're talking about what the new so-called new Earth, as you're calling it, whatever, after this. So we're talking 21, 20, I don't know, 22, the showdown in 21, whatever. And the Earth that remains, whether or not that humanity will be controlled as they're attempting to do now with 5G.
I will say this, the ones that are taken aboard the ships, you will not be brought back to Earth. You will live on these ships. These ships are biospheres. You will be taken care of as any father or mother would take care of her children. We look at you as our children. My God, let's be real. We're not going to let nothing happen to you. But we can't save everybody. And the ones that we are going to save are worthy. When I say we can't save everybody, the ones that we're not going to worry about, well, you made your bed, now you're going to sleep in it. I say that very lovingly because you will be given a final chance. But once this is completed and that dragon that is sitting right here in America gets doing all his nasty stuff, the power plants, the nuclear power plants, all the cleanup, it will take a little time, but you will live a new life. And when you are brought back en masse to this world, you will be brought back to a green, fuller garden, a new garden of Edom. And you will be given technology your mind can't even comprehend, but on them ships, you will already get a precursor of what to expect. You'll learn a new way of life. It's not us to control you. We are here not to control you. We're here to teach and share, just like we do in the Federation, the Council. You will see new ways of growing food. You won't be eating T-bone steaks no more. Sorry. You'll have new ways of communication. You'll have new ways of transportation, clean transportation. new energy, clean energy. There will be no more tapping into Mother Earth for fossil fuels. The atmosphere will be controlled. We gave this technology a few years ago. It's called the HARP. And all the HARP systems, there's a total of 5 of them, are shut down now. Why? Well, certain people wanted to take it. And, well, I know what some of them are saying. They're controlling the weather and they're causing all these massive storms. No. That's why they were shut down. So the ones who were controlling, as you call them, the cabal, now they don't have access to them. They are protected. They are part of our gifts that was brought to man. Now, with that said, will they survive this cataclysmic event that's coming? Maybe not. But then again, maybe they will. But if they're not here, new ones will be built. And man will start learning how to live as it was intended to. Oh, God, let me get down to this. 212,000 years ago. I'm exact on the date. Very confident on the date.
Okay. Now there are a lot of people asking sort of various wide questions that don't all have to do with this subject. So I'm kind of going through the list here and seeing what we can talk about that would be related. So people in the underground bases, you know, there's lots of underground cities at this point, etc.
Yes.
Some of them think they're going to be surviving this coming, whatever you want to call it, cataclysm, etc. What do you have to say about that?
Just like the flat earthers. I've urged people, if you think you're going to go into your little bunker and survive all this, go ahead. Dance right on in there. I hope you have enough, because you will not come out. You will not survive it. I will say this. The underground bases that not just the United States, many world governments have built, they will not survive it. They will be covered with ash. And plus the tectonic strain and the expansion of Earth as this planetoid system gets closer. What happens once it expands enough? No, it's not going to expand and blow up. But once it expands, cools down, what happens? So if you're underground, guess what? Crunch. It's crunch time. You will not survive it. That's why we're extracting people off this planet. I just read something 7 days ago, Carrie. This is a United Nations notice that was given to many world leaders. Last year alone, there was 8,000 and something unexplained mass vanishing of people globally.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
All right. Okay, let's see. I'm seeing if there's anything else here. I think some people, look, if you're not up to speed on Eddie's background, I've got a lot of documents that he sent me that I posted. So you have to go, as I said, my website has been down. They're trying to work on it. I've got a wonderful guy trying to work on it now. My webmaster has disappeared, but in the interim, Tommy, who used to work with me years ago, is trying to work on it. I'm going there right now. It's still down. But when it comes back up, we do have a guest blog where Eddie and I have had a dialogue over email. I've been posting those emails. Some of them are very long, and Eddie talks extensively about his information, etc. And then we've got another link there that's called something like Eddie's documents or whatever. If you want to see his, documentation, what do they call that? The 2144, whatever it is you get when you
DD214.
Yeah, DD214, and so on and so forth. So Eddie is one of my whistleblowers who actually has extensive documentation that he actually stole, because it's his, from the CIA before he left. At the end of the 10 years that he worked for them. So he has sent a lot of those documents. We haven't put all of them up because some of them are marked, will seem to be marked secret or whatever. And others we're not so sure how, how legal it is to put it on there, but I put a lot of stuff up there. And so you can go there and see some background on Eddie. Also watch my earlier interviews and go to Eddie's channel and watch his own interviews that he does with himself. And you've also got this lovely woman who is also interviewing you, right?
Ari Copel, Shattering the Matrix. She's my sister, by the way. Okay.
And there's and the other woman who is the granddaughter.
Margaret Hahn.
Yeah, Margaret Hahn. Okay.
Yeah. She's got a neat nickname, by the way. Did you know that?
Oh, no, I don't. I guess I don't.
I call her the mother hen. I love her to death.
All right.
She is a friend. She watches over me, and she tries to correct me on many cases, but she's failed on many cases too, but I love her to death.
All right. Someone, now I am going to shut this down soon because I know you've been with me for a while here. I don't want to exhaust you too much. A person is claiming they think that you are a Templar. Were you a Templar in one of your previous lives?
Well, that is a good question. Would you like to see the proof?
Sure.
All right. Out of the way. Out of the way. Once a Templar, always a Templar.
All right. So that's going to answer your question there. And you are part of what was the good intentions of the original Templars, I'm taking it.
Well, I carry the Red Cross, the cross of our species, proudly. It's not running exclusively through my veins as my excuse of my destiny and my promise to my father. I would stand proudly for him and do exactly as a good son would do as his father instructed. Life here is precious. I don't want to see nobody die, but unfortunately, that's not the case. Us who carry the Red Cross, us who are the NIBIRU, we are here for you. It's always been about you. It's never been about extraterrestrials or God or some church. It's always been about you. What you do with yourself matters. And we're here to make sure that you make the right decisions. We're not here to conquer you. We're not here to control humanity, as some specified. We're not the demons that, well, religions want you to think we are. We're not the fallen ones, as some might think. Do your research, people. We're here for you. I look just like you. I breathe just like you. Yes, I have a few abilities that I won't go into, but I am here for you.
Okay. Last question. Are you aware of the human clones?
Yeah. What's the question?
Well, I guess they just wanted to know, do you have anything to say about the clones?
Well, let's look at me for a minute. Originally, they thought I was an alien hybrid. Oh, my God, he's an alien hybrid. Look at this, people. I have no horns on my head. So, with that said, yes, there is clones here. There are genetics being conducted by various governments, especially this one. These clones do not live very long. They do not have the temperament nor the structure within their system. What separates the clones from, well, let's just say humans, is because you have something they don't. You have a soul. Most will know it as the pineal gland. You have a third eye, which is part of that soul. I like to call it the way I was taught, the God gene. This goes back again. God was a creation of man's teachings, but you are an extension of our culture. You have the same gifts, the very same abilities that anybody does. You know right from wrong. But these clones, they don't have what you got. Protect your person. Protect your spirit. Know what is right and wrong. And if you'll listen to it, because it will talk to you, hey, don't do that. That's bad. Or, wow, that's some beautiful music. Enjoy it. You know the difference between right and wrong. You know what is pleasing and what is detestable. Unfortunately, finishing the answer to this question, many of the ones responsible for the cloning, the city that sits on the 7 hills, I will say this again because you are watching this show. Soon I will come to you, and soon I will ride in your nice little 4A, and I want you to see what I'm riding. And I want you to take very close note of who has come knocking. It is not a social call. And with that said, again, this is about humanity. It's always been about humanity.
All right, Eddie. It's a delightful, as always, talk with you. I want to thank you for coming on the show. I think you've kind of laid it on the line very clearly for people, and I appreciate that. I want people to also go to your YouTube channel and see the things that you put out there, so that they just do a search on Eddie Page, right, on YouTube, and they can find your channel. Exactly.
I have one thing I want to share with you, Carrie. I want to clarify this before anybody goes off on the deep end.
All right.
Disinformation agent, fake. No, I want to clarify this so nobody has any fuel for their fire. When I said 2021, I'm showing a prophecy of Nostradamus. FEMA is discussing that NIBIRU will be physically seen by the world sometime in 2021. That needs to be clarified.
Okay, so you're going to say it's physically seen, but the so-called showdown with the DRACO is going to happen after 2021 or during 2021?
Well, that showdown is taking place right now as we speak. It just hasn't came to fruition yet. But when it does, God help anybody that's left here. That's why we're trying to get as many people off this planet as possible. Because when the showdown comes, let me tell you something, sister. You ain't never seen no fireworks like it's getting ready to erupt here.
Okay. Now, are you saying that Yellowstone is going to erupt by the 10th of May, 2021? Or are you saying it's going to erupt before then?
I'm not saying anything. I will say this, though. I'm watching it like a hawk. When I said that the 7th seal, that 7th trumpet, which is a metaphor, but if you want to know the scientific data on it, it's called the Aberline cycle. Certain things are going to line up. And when they line up, guess what? If you look into the sky, whether it's daytime or nighttime, into the southern hemisphere, you're going to see something very nasty coming your way. The Aberline cycle is the arrival of the great red dragon, the Death Star. Now, as the Death Star gets closer, the Aberline cycle will be shifting. And when it shifts, well, Earth is going to shift too. And when that dragon rises, Yellowstone, he's going to have a little nudging to get him out of his cage. And as I've said, all that's going to start in Alaska, come down into the Cascadia subduction zone, and then, buddy, it is on.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you again, Eddie. Look, you take care, and we'll have some more conversations in the future. Okay.
I want to ask you one. I want to ask a question of you, Carrie.
All right.
Before I am going to be with my people here in about 6 hours. I'll be there for 42 hours. I've been told. So I'm prepared. I am. Is there anything you would like me to ask one of the elders that is going to be meeting with me? Anything?
Yeah, why have you 33 been allowing yourselves to be under the thumb of the Illuminati, the Vatican, the very sort of enemy of what you stand for so long?
Oh God, I thought you was going to ask something technical and something hard. That's easy. But yeah, I will ask that. I can already give you an answer, but I will see what the Grand Elder.
What was the philosophy? The philosophy of making you like an Earthman? Is that the idea? So that you guys will all, basically live under the thumb of this sort of crazy regime that we've been under all these years?
Well, time was right for us to surface, don't you think?
Yep.
So, yeah, I will ask that question. I will ask that question, and I will personally give it. I will be back late Sunday night.
All right. And I think that, it would be nice if you can talk about your relationship and your culture's relationship with our secret space program.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Donald Trump is just now talking about this secret space program. It ain't really no secret. Hell, it's been known since what? The 50s?
Yeah, even
1958. Matter of fact, we want the exact year.
Yeah, even earlier. Yeah. Well, William Tompkins gave us the history for sure, and so on. But to be honest, I mean, those are my only two questions at the moment that come to mind.
Okay.
All right, and I'm sure other people might have questions of their own.
I will say this before I go. Carrie, you have put yourself in lion's fire. You've put your neck in the noose. I have a lot of people that has put their neck in the noose because they wanted to be part of something greater than humanity. My hats and my heart is out for all of you. All I can say is that those who want to come harm people like Carrie Cassidy or my sister, or any innocent person that's out there trying to help somebody, I will say this to them. Think very clearly and wisely before you react, because if you try to harm anybody that is helping us, you're harming humanity. You're harming humanity. I don't play nice on people that harm humanity. If you don't believe me, maybe you ought to read about Ray Wardle. Anyway, Carrie, I love you to death. Be safe, be sound, and be focused.
All right. All right. You take care.
You too.
All right. Goodbye. And thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so I'm back on the air, I believe, and sorry about that. I hit the wrong button, but I want to thank everyone for being here today. And obviously, we've let Eddie Page go, and he's given some excellent testimony here. as he understands it from the people that he represents, the Pleiadians, and take it for what it's worth to you, and, you know, do your own homework and investigations. And what we're here to do in Project Camelot is provide a platform for those that we believe have sort of parts of the truth. And some people have more truth than other people. And I am not a judge and jury, and that's not my role, and that's not the role that I wish Project Camelot to play. So if you're wondering what I think, you know, I do presentations at various conferences, etc. And I can tell you that there is evidence as to what I believe and so on. But this is all about presenting sides of the truth for you to discern and make up your mind. And then you have to follow your own intuition as to what way you want to go. So I appreciate everyone being here today, and for the people that will be watching this later. And please do spread the word that there is at least one person who is out there stating some of these things unequivocally with the evidence that he has. And I want to say have a great weekend, and we'll be back next week with some more fabulous guests and as many people that have pieces of the big picture as possible. And, you know, so take care. Goodbye.